Begin today the Gemara at the bottom of Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis, the last line, Amar Abaya. The Gemara before brought two opinions regarding a get, where the husband made a condition and he said, Hareze Gittich im loy basi mikam vad yud beis chaydish. This is your get if I don't come back for 12 months. And then what happens? He passed away within 12 months. So in our Mishnah it said she can't be divorced because the get only takes effect after the 12 months. But he died before, so there's no get after Misa. If he said me'achshav, so then it means that the get really took effect from before. But if he didn't say me'achshav, she's not divorced. That's what the Mishnah said. But then the Gemara brought from a Braise that Rabbi Seinu, which is really Rabbi Yosi said the date of the get proves that he meant to be Megadasher now. Whatever Tanai he made means that it's really, once the Tanai happens, it's going to be Megadashes from before. That was the Machlekes before. So now the Gemara clarifies exactly the lashon of in what case this Machlekes was. Amar Abaye, so Abaye said, HaKoil Moedim, everybody would agree, Hey Cheda Omar. When a husband tells his wife, Likishe Teitze Chama Min Artika, when the sun is going to come out of its sheath. So this is the middle of the night. He's telling her by night that he's giving her the get then, and he says in the morning. But he uses the term Likishe Teitze. Likishe Teitze is a very strong lashon. When it comes out, then you'll be divorced. So then over here nobody argues. Then it's clear that he's telling her only when the sun comes up, basically. In the morning, that's when she's divorced. So have a get lachamisa. So if he died already at night, so then it's too late. In the morning, the get is a get after he died, and she's not divorced. So Rashi clarifies, even though Abaye is saying this mashal of Likishe Teitze regarding the night and the morning, but Abaye means to say the same thing as regarding the example that the Mishnah said. When a person made a t'nai, if I don't come back for 12 months. So if he used over there this similar kind of a lashon, if he said Likishe loy avay la'achar 12 chaydish, he didn't say im loy basi, but he said Likishe. Likishe means only when I don't come back. So then even Rabbi Yosef will agree that we're not going to say that the date of the star proves that he meant from now. She's only divorced later, and then if he dies before, it's too late. Another case. What's if the husband said, Al menas sheteitze chama min atika, on condition, he used exactly this term of al menas, that the sun will come up in the morning. So then this term, al menas me'achshav kamala. Everybody will agree, even the Tanakam and the Mishnah that argued with Rabbi Tana and the Mishnah that argued with Rabbi Yossi will also agree that the word al-manas means that she'll really be divorced from the beginning. When you use the term al-manas, that term al-manas means that you're saying that the get should be a get from before, from a achshav. What is the argument? If he uses the term, I'm giving you this get, and you'll be divorced, im teitze, if the sun comes up in the morning, or when the sun comes up in the morning, then you'll be divorced. Now, what does this term of im teitze mean? Right, so Rashi says that this is really similar to a lashon that we had in the beginning of the Perek, where a person gives a get to his wife, and he says, im mati, I'm giving you this get, that it should be a get im mati. What does this lashon of im mati mean? The Gemara said in the beginning of the Perek that it actually is shtei l'shainis mashma. The word im mati could mean that he's saying that it should only be a get when he dies, and it could also mean that it should be a get from now when he dies. Not a clear lashon. That's why in the beginning of the Perek, the Gemara said that according to the Mishnah, it will depend if he adds the word mehayim. If he's going to add the word ma'ayim, then we'll say that he meant to say from now. If he does not add the word ma'ayim, we'll say he only meant when he passed away. That's how the Gemara explained it before. So the Gemara says because this term im mati is not 100% clear, it's actually this case that Rabbi Yossi and the Tana of our Mishnah argue about. So Marsav Allah, Rabbi Yossi, the Braise that we brought before holds like Rabbi Yossi, the Amma that says that in such a case im mati, if you don't have to add the actual word mehayim to prove that he meant from now. The date in the shtar will prove that. It's as if he specified and clearly said the word mehayim emati or kemeachshav emati, or it's like he said clearly meachshav emati. So the get is chal already from now. And Mar loisavah Rabbi Yossi, and the Mishnah over here did not hold like Rabbi Yossi, and vahavalei ki im mati greda. So therefore, it's like you said, just im mati. When you use over here the term im teitze regarding the morning, or you said before im, he gives her the get hareze gittin im loy basi mikan ad yud beis chaydish. So over there, if you did not add the word me'achshav, then we say that the get only takes effect later. So if you died before, she won't be divorced.
Why is Almanas more clearer than
It's a good question. You have to know the Lashonis. Al Menas means from now. I mean, it's the Lashon, that's what it is. Okay, the Gemara goes to the next part of the Mishnah. When a person is not making a condition, but he's speaking to people, telling them to write a get for his wife. Right? So in other words, he is making a condition, but the condition is not when he's giving the get to his wife, but it's before even the get is being written. And what's the case? So the Mishnah brought two cases. One case was Kisvu utnu get leishti im leibasi mikam vayud beis chaydish. So he said first Kisvu utnu, write, give the get, and then he adds im leibasi mikam vayud beis chaydish. That's one case. And there was also another case in the Mishnah though. The other case in the Mishnah was where the person said, Kisvu over here. In this case, he said first Kisvu tnu get lishti, and then afterwards he said im loy basi mikan. Then he said the time frame that if I don't come for 12 months. In that case, if you look in the Mishnah says that Rav Yosi says that in such a case, even if the get was written before the 12 months were up, she's divorced. But the previous case in the Mishnah was when he started off saying, Im loy basi mikan va'ad yud beis chodesh, kisvu tnu get lishti. Then write a get for my wife. Right? So over there, what's the halacha in that case? So it's not clear in the Mishnah if Rabbi Yosi argues in that case as well. When Rabbi Yosi says that if the get was written even before the 12 months are up, in that case as well, when he started off saying that it depends on this time frame, you have to wait 12 months, over there, does Rabbi Yosi also say that you could still write the get before, you just have to give it after? So it's not clear. Here, let's see what the Gemara says. So Rav Yem asks Rav Ashi, Leime, should we say, Kesav Rav Yosi? Rav Yosi that says in the Mishnah that even though the husband said, write and give, both, after 12 months, but if you wrote it before, and so he gives it after the 12 months, it's okay. So does that mean that, why is Rav Yosi saying this? Kesav Rav Yosi, Rav Yosi holds that Kasav get al tanai, even a get that was written and there was a certain condition regarding the writing of the get, kosher. But even if you didn't fulfill the condition, the get will still be kosher. That's what it seems like Rabbi Yosi is saying, because the husband here made a condition for both, the writing and the giving, that they should both be after the 12 months. And Rabbi Yosi says the condition only takes effect for the giving, not for the writing. You can write it before. So according to the Gemara's question now, if this would be true, that would mean that Rabbi Yosi is arguing on both of the cases that the Mishnah mentioned, whether he starts saying kisvu tnu, that he should write the get, and then afterwards he mentioned the time frame of Yud Beis Chaydish, or even in the other way around. When he says first Yud Beis Chaydish, the time frame, and then afterwards he says kisvu tnu, it doesn't make a difference. Rabbi Yosi seemingly holds that when it comes to the writing of the get, the Tanai doesn't matter. So the Gemara says, Loi, that's not the pshat in what Rabbi Yosi is saying. Loi l'mei malach pasal. If you don't fulfill the Tanai for the writing of a get, it's pasal. But there are two cases here, and Rabbi Yosi is only arguing in the second case. V'shani hacha, over here in this case it's different. Because the usual lashon that a person would say when he makes a tanai is im loy basi. Starts off saying first im loy basi, the time frame if I don't come for 12 months, and then afterwards he says kisvu tnu, write the get. If he would say that language, Rabbi Yosi would agree that the tanai takes effect, and in such a case you must write and give after 12 months. But instead, Va'ama, what did he say? He said first, kisvu tnu, write the get, give the get, and then afterwards he said, im loy basi, if I don't come. So why did he say first, kisvu tnu? So therefore, Rabbi Yosi says, we understand what he meant. Hachi kama, he meant to say kisvu meyachshav. You have to read it, kisvu kama. So kisvu, give the get, write the get now, and then utnu im loy basi. And the tnai is only going on the tnu that you give it afterwards. That's the reason why he changed the Seder in the way he said it. So Rabbi Yosi is only arguing in this case when he said first kisvu tnu and then he said im loy basi. But the Rabbanon say loishna hachi v'loishna hachi. It doesn't make a difference if he said first kisvu tnu or he said first the Yud Beis Chaydish. Either way, we know that he wants that it should be written and given after 12 months. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in a Braisa. What if a person makes a t'nai and says la'achar shavua? So what does this mean? He gives her a get, and he says, if I'm not going to come, achar, shavua, you'll be divorced. Now over here, shavua means the period of 7 years, or the Shemitah, right? He says, if I'm not going to come back after Shemitah, so then you're going to be divorced. Now what's this time period of after Shemitah? What is he giving himself? 1 day after Shemitah? 2 days? How long is considered to be that if he does arrive, it's still called after Shemitah? Says the Gemara Shana. This is actually the entire year. The whole year after Shemitah, the year of Hakel, which is the year after Shemitah, is all called after Shemitah. So if he comes the last day of the 8th year after Shemitah, so he arrived Achar. What if he said La'achar Shana? If I don't come after the year, what's called after the year? Chodesh. For 1 month after that year, he has time to come, that it should be considered after the year. La'achar Chodesh, if I don't come after this month, how long is after the month? Shabbos, which is a week. He has a week time to come. What if he said La'achar Shabbos? If I don't come after this week, what's considered to be after Shabbos? After this week, my Yosef Rab Zera Kamed Rabasi. So Rab Zera was sitting in front of Rabasi. V'amri lo Rabasi Kamed Rab Yechanan, or Rabasi was sitting in front of Rab Yechanan. V'kama, and they said as follows: Chad b'Shabbat on Sunday, or Trei, Tlasa, Monday, and Tuesday, Basal Shabbata. They're all considered to be still after, following Shabbos. So if he came even up to Tuesday, it's still considered that he came after. But Arba v'Chamisha on Wednesday or on Thursday, or Ma'ila Shabbat, or on Friday, Erev Shabbos, Kami Shabbata. Those 3 days are already the days that are related to the following Shabbos before the next Shabbos. This halacha that's brought over here regarding this condition is also benegayet to other halachas. Benegayet to making Havdalah. If you didn't make Havdalah until Shabbos, you can make Havdalah until Tuesday. Or there's also how the Alter Rebbe brings a Shulchan Aruch, Bidi Yeved, if a person wasn't Mavasedra, so you can be Mavasedra until Tuesday. It's because it's called, Lashon of the Gemara, it's still called Achar Shabbata or Basa Shabbata. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa, Rebbe Yomer, Rebbe said, La'acha HaRegel. If a person says, if I don't come back until after Yom Tov, what's the time period of after regarding a Yom Tov? Shloishim Yom. That's 30 days. Nafik Rab Chia. So Rab Chia went out and Darsha Mishmei de Rebbe, and he said this over in the name of Rebbe, V'kolsua. When he said it, Tafk in the name of Rebbe, so they praised, they said, yeah, you repeated this correctly. Rebbe is the one that holds this. But then Mishmei de Rabbim, when he repeated this, that it's 30 days after the Yom Tov, that's called Acha HaYom Tov, and he repeated it not only in the name of Rebbe, but he said that many hold this way, then V'loi kolsua. They did not praise. They said, no, this is not true. Not everybody holds this. So the Gemara says, what do we see from this? Alma les hilchas ikavasei. What we see is that we do not paskin like the statement of Rebbe, and that's why they didn't want him to repeat it in the name of the Rabbi, because we don't paskin this way. So it's not clear though in the Gemara if it's not 30 days after the Yom Tov. So how long is Achar Yom Tov? What's the time frame? The Gemara doesn't say. There's a discussion in the Rishonim about it. Some Rishonim say that it's 15 days after the Yom Tov. Hadron Aloch Misha Achzai. This is the conclusion of the 7th Perek of Masechta Gittin. Okay, we'll begin the 8th Perek of the Masechta. And here, this Perek is going to discuss the halachas of the giving of the get. Right? So we had a very long arichas over here that discussed the union of shlichus of a get. And within that, there was a lot of different things that got involved, side subjects as well, all kinds of takanas of chachamim, not only regarding Gittin, but now we come back to a very fundamental point regarding a get, which is the v'nosan b'yoda, the nisina of the get. Sagt Heilige Mishnah, hazayrik get lishta. Person threw the get to his wife, he b'toich beisa, and she is in her house, or b'toich hatzeira, and she's there in her courtyard. So what kind of a house or courtyard are we talking about that belongs to her when she's married? So Rashi says that this is from the nichsei malug. These are nichsei malug, the properties that the wife brings into the marriage, that still belong to her even after they're married. The guf of the karka, the actual karka is hers, but the husband is the one that eats and takes from the peiris. He uses all the produce for himself. So that's called beisa and chatzeira. Harezu megoreshes. So the get was thrown into her property, so she's divorced. Meaning the get doesn't have to be placed into her hand. It can be put into a courtyard of hers or a space that belongs to her. If he threw the get to his wife, and this is in the husband's house or the husband's courtyard, even if he threw her the get, and the get is with her, with his wife in her bed, so it seems like it's sort of in her private place that he's giving it to her. She's not divorced because the get did not come into her place. It's the husband. It's a place that belongs to the husband. If he threw the get into her lap or into her basket, then she will be divorced. And the Gemara will explain that this is even if this is in his house. Even though this basket is, the basket is sort of her little chutzner, but that's in his, she's still standing in his house. Still she's going to be divorced. And the Gemara will explain this.
Both of them, though.
Huh?
It's both of them. No?
What do you mean both? Cheka and Kalsa, both of them. She's in his house and still she's divorced. Well, okay, we'll see. We'll see. The Gemara will explain this. Now today we'll learn it to Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. From where do I know this halacha that you don't have to give the get directly into the wife's hand? It says in the Torah, v'nosan b'yada. So the Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Braise, v'nosan b'yada, when the Torah says you have to give the get into her hands, ainli ele yada. So I would think it's only her hands. Gaga, chatzera, a rooftop, a courtyard, karfifa, another space that's enclosed that she owns. Minayin, how do I know that that's also good, that it's like yada? Talmud loymar, so we learn out because it says v'nosan, when it says in the word, in the pasuk in the beginning, v'nosan, we read that separately, mikol makay, that you have to give it to her, into her domain, wherever it may be. So Rashi says the reason we're dashing the word v'nosan separately is because the pasuk could have written ubiyada yitnenu, starting off with biyada, that it has to be placed into her hands. Then I would say that it must be in her hands, because it starts off with v'nosan, and then it adds the condition of biyada. I also read v'nosan separately, that it's put into her hands. That's Rashi's pshat. Other Rishonim argue with this, but that's how Rashi says the limud is. This is the makar over here regarding a get. Avitan yanami hachi. We learned a similar halacha like gabi ganav, by a person that steals, and when he has the geneva, so he's chayiv to pay back, and he has to pay double. So we learned by ganev yodoi. So by ganev it says imimotze timotzi geneva biyodoi. If the geneva is found in his hand, he has to pay kefil, double. This is only if it's found in his hand. A rooftop, a courtyard, or another space that's enclosed. How do we know that he's chayiv then as well? Talmud loymar, he uses the double term. If it was found, that means in any of his domains. So we have the halacha by a get and the halacha by a ganav. Says the Gemara, utzriche, the Torah has to teach me this halacha both by the get and by the ganav. They can't be learned out from each other. The yeshmin and get, if the Torah would tell me that by the get it doesn't have to be only her hand, it could be the chotzer as well, I would say the reason is mishum b'bal karcha magarsha, because by a get he can divorce her by giving her the get even against her will. Al ganav the lesser bal karche, but by a ganav, since you can't give, there's no such a thing of bal karche, there's no geneva bal karche. Like the geneva is that the person goes and steals willingly. So I would say that maybe over there the geneva is only that he's kain it in his hands, not in a chotzer. So the svar of the Gemara here regarding bal karche, so there's different pshatim with this. Some say that the idea of bal karche means that you don't need the das of the isha. So same thing is also just like when you put it into her hands, it's against the rule. You don't need her consent. So I would say a chatzar is good too. A chatzar has no das, but so what? You don't need anyone's das. That's one of the pshatim that Achrayim say for this. But by geneva, you need the das of the ganav to be a ganav. So therefore, maybe over there chatzar doesn't work. On the other hand, v'yashminan ganev, if I would say this halacha by ganev, mishum the konser rachmana, I would say maybe by ganeva, the reason why your chotzer could be the ganev, if it's found in the chotzer of the ganev, so he'll be a ganev. The reason is because dafke by a ganev, the Torah wants to expand the idea of how the ganeva happens, not only in his hand, but also in his chotzer, because it's a knas, the Torah wants him to pay double. Right now, here Rashi adds to this when you get to the Geneva that it means that it was in his chotzer, and the Ganev locked the door on the chotzer in order to keep it there. Right. So this is a famous Rashi. The Ketzais points out what Rashi is saying over here is that the Ganev has to do a certain maisa in order to be a Ganev. Just the fact that it's in his chotzer and he leaves it there and he doesn't allow someone to come in is not good enough. He has to do a maisa to lock the door. Then he's a Ganev. Okay, but maybe I would say that by a ganev we expand this to chotzer as well because of a knas. That's what the Torah wants. I will get a maloi, but by a get, maybe the Torah wants very specifically that the get should go dafke into her hands, tzricha. So therefore the Torah has to say that by get as well, it can be in her chotzer. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the halacha that it said in the Mishnah, that the husband threw it into his wife's chotzer. And again, what are we talking about? It's her chotzer because it's a property of nichsei melug, which she owns, but the husband is the one that is practically taking everything from this chotzer. All the paytas are his. So frak the Gemara, chatzeira, you're saying that he threw it into her chotzer, but why do we consider this to be her chotzer? Masha kansa isha kana baila. Whatever a wife owns, the husband owns. And Rashi says this includes even over here regarding the nichsei melug, because since all the paytas go to the husband, so the get that comes into this chotzer never really left the husband's place, because this is the place where the husband's there all the time and he takes everything for himself. So it's a big discussion in Rishonim about here, this question of the Gemara, because the guf of the karka itself does belong to her. But this almost could be compared to a case where you have a property that someone owns and he rented it out to someone else. So the Seicher is living there. So if the Seicher is living there, the Chatzah belongs to the renter. So over here, the husband is the one that's using this karka, and the Gemara says that's enough of a reason to say that really this Chatzah belongs to the husband, not to the Isha. So why should she be kind of the get? Amar Rabbi Elazar, so Rabbi Elazar answers, the case over here is, because of law, din dvarim ein li b'nechasecha. He wrote to her that this karka that you're bringing into the marriage, the nechasim here, I have no din dvarim, I have nothing to do with it. It's completely yours. That's what he wrote to her. So therefore, that's her chatzah completely. Frek the Gemara, but v'chikasav lahachi may have it. If he writes her this, how does that help? V'atanya, we learned the brayso, a person says to his friend, din udvarim ein li al sadazu. I have nothing to do with this property over here. He has a sadeh that he has a partnership with him, and they own it together. And he writes to his friend, I make up with you that I give away my part. I have nothing to do with this. I have no occupation with this. My hands are removed from this. It's nothing. It's just words. If you want to give away, you have to make an actual proper kinyan. You can't just say these words. It doesn't do anything. So over here, what does it mean that the husband told her that it doesn't help anything? Okay, now Tosfos over here points out right away, so the Gemara could have just very simply answered this question to say that the husband did make a proper kinyan. He made a proper kinyan and gave it to his wife. Okay, but the Gemara continues to explain, even without a proper kinyan, based on a Gemara in another place, in Ksubis, that it could be that sometimes you say, din dvarim einli b'nechasecha does work. So Amri de Rabbi Yanai, in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yanai, they explained, the kais of law v'oida arusa. If the husband writes this to his wife, that I have nothing to do with your nechasim that you're bringing into the marriage, if she's still an arusa, then it does work. When does the husband get the rights over his wife's properties? Only after he's fully married, nisuin. In the time of Edison, after the first stage of marriage, he still doesn't have any kinyan. So if he's saying this before he would have gotten the kinyan, then he could say that the kinyan that I would get, I don't want. I don't want to get this kinyan. So he can express his will that he doesn't want it, and he won't get it. Even though Chachamim were misakin, that once she gets married, he automatically is kind of everything from his wife. But if he says in advance that he doesn't want, then so that takon of Chachamim does not take effect. Where do we see such a concept that a person could decide and say that he doesn't want the takon of Chachamim to take effect? Or could Rav Kahana, like what Rav Kahana said? Rav Kahana said, an inheritance that comes to a person from another place. Now, from another place means that this is not a regular inheritance, minat Torah. But this is midrabanon, that is some kind of inheritance that Chachamim instituted that he should get. So, a person can make a condition and say in advance, I'm not interested in this. Since it's only midrabanon, he can say he doesn't want it. Now, what's the reason for this? Look at the Rav. As Rav had explained, Rav says, a person that says that I'm not interested in what Chachamim instituted for my good, like this, and the Gemara will soon say regarding what Rav said, Kagoin Zu, Shaimin Loi. We listen to him. So over here as well, if it was a Yerusha Minat Torah, you can't say that. Minat Torah, you get it automatically. But if it's Sintis Midrabanan, and over here as well, the fact that a husband gets the properties of his wife is a Chacham or Masak in this, so in the time of Edison, he could say, I don't want it, I don't need it. Now, my Kagoin Zu, where did Rav say that a person could refuse to accept the Takana of Chachamim? It's like what Ravona Marav had said. A wife could say to her husband, I don't need you to feed me. And the work that I do, my income will not go to you. Because the whole takana that she gets mezainis was all for her benefit. Chachamim were concerned that if a wife should not won't necessarily have enough income to feed herself, so the husband should feed her. And then in exchange, so the husband shouldn't be upset, they said that she should give her income to the husband. But if she says, I don't need this deal, I can take care of myself, so then she can say that she doesn't want the takana of the Chachamim. Now the Gemara brings another answer on the original question we asked. How could she be kind of her get in her chatzar if her chatzar, kol mashakana isha, kana baila, whatever she owns, automatically the husband has ownership over it? Rav says, Atu, Yada, you can ask the same question regarding when the husband places the get in her hand. So her hand itself, mile kanya leilabal, doesn't the husband have a kinyan over the hand of his wife? Now, the Gemara will soon explain exactly what that means. I mean, l'chayra, a husband does not have a kinyan over his wife's hand. Okay, but this is what Rava says right now. So the question is, how could she be kind of her get in her hand if her hand belongs to her husband? Ella, the answer over there is Gita v'yada ba'in ke'echad. Simultaneously it happens. Moment she gets her get, so now that she's divorced through this get, so she gets the independence of her hand with this get that she gets into it, and therefore she could receive it for herself. So the same thing also, hachanami gita v'chatzeira ba'en ke'echad. The fact that the get is being given to her in her chatzer at the very same moment that the chatzer is becoming hers, because now that she's divorced, at that very same moment, that chatzer is hers to receive this get. Okay, this answer of the Gemara is not so easy to understand. When you learn the answer of the Gemara of the Pashtus, the question still remains a question, because you still need first that she should be kind of her chatzer, and then she can be kind of the get in her chatzer to be divorced. How could you say that it's the get that causes at the same moment that the chatzah should become hers, and then she's kind of the get through the chatzah, but the chatzah is not hers yet? How could it be ke'echad? So there's a lot of achrayim that speak about this. There's a famous k'tzais that says that the pshat in this Gemara is that mikan rayet, that when it comes to a get, the isha that receives the get from her husband is not like by a kinyan, where you have to be kind of it in order to be divorced. It doesn't say in the Torah that a husband has to be makna, he has to sell a kinyan of the get to his wife. It says you have to give. Giving is a different thing. Giving is without the proper seder of a kinyan. If it was a kinyan, so then first the chatzah has to be hers, and then the get, you can be kind of in that chatzah. When the Torah says nesina, the Gemara is saying that this qualifies for nesina. Nesina means if at the same moment, the point of the get is to make her independent, and you're putting it into her chatzar, and at that moment she's becoming divorced, and the chatzar then becomes hers, it could happen at the same moment. It qualifies for nesina, even if for other kinyanim it wouldn't work. That's the Ktsaisis Hezber. Okay, so the Gemara says weiter on this. Now the Gemara goes back to the question that I pointed out before in what Rava said regarding the hand of the wife. Rava said this, his proof was because he had a problem with the hand of a wife. How could you be even kind of to get in her own hands if it belongs to the husband? So how could that be? Why does he have a problem with the hand? The husband doesn't hold the physical hand of the wife. True, the husband owns the wife for the income, for the work that she works with her hands. But does the husband own the actual physical hand of the wife? So what's the problem here? So Rav answers, you're right. The question, the raya of Rava wasn't from the hand of a wife. It was from the hand of an Eved Kanani. Yada Eved Kakashale. His question was regarding the hand of an Eved. How could he receive a star to become free? According to the opinion that says b'shtar al yidei atzmai, that an Eved could become free when his master gives him a star to free him, and he could receive that star in his own hands. Over here, yad Eved ki yad Rabbi Damya. The master does own the body of the Eved like a piece of property, and he owns his physical hand. So how could he receive his own star to be free? So over there we say that his get or his star, he's kind of together with his hand at the same time, and he becomes free. So here as well we say regarding a chatzer that it happens at the same time. So here the Gemara brings the story that happened, and as we'll see, this is the story where Rava originally had said his chiddush. There was a person that was very ill. The Kosav la Gittin the Biso, so he wrote a get for his wife, Bahadi Pani de Maila Shabbata, and it was late Friday afternoon. And he didn't get a chance to give her the get before Shabbos. Tomorrow on Shabbos, so he became very ill, and he was afraid that he's going to pass away and he's not going to get a chance to give her the get. Now, what's the problem? The problem is that he can't give her the get on Shabbos. And Rashi here says, there's different opinions in Rishonim about this. Rashi says the issue is that the get is muktzah. So you can't give the get to his wife. So what are you going to do? So they came to Rava, and Rava said, you don't have to touch the get. You can give her the get without touching it. How? Zilu amrule, go tell the husband, likni nehela lahu duchte the Yosef begite. Let him make a kinyan for his wife that she should be kind of that space where the get is sitting on. He should say that he's giving it to her. And v'teizel ihi, and the wife will go and actually make a kinyan on that space. And how? V'teichad, v'tiftach, she'll lock the door of that space, or open the door of that space, v'tachzik pei. And that's a chazakah. Why? Where do we see that locking a door is a chazakah? The Rishonim discuss why the Gemara says both. Locking, opening, do you actually need both? Okay, be it as it may. So here we see the Mishnah that says that No, goda paratz. When a person wants to be machzik in a piece of land, what is chazakeh? Whether you lack or you godar, you close up the breach in a fence, or paratz, the opposite. You make a breach, you open up a fence that was closed. Kol shu, even just a little bit. Harei is a chazakeh. This is a chazakeh. So therefore, he was saying that you can make a kinyan there for your wife, and she'll be kind of the get in this place. How? Rashi actually says that she'll be kind of the get with kinyan agav. There's a halacha regarding a property. When you make a kinyan on a property, the metaltalin that's inside get acquired to you agav together with the karka. That's what Rashi says. Other Rishonim say that it's like what we said before, kinyan chotzer. But for some reason Rashi says kinyan agav. There's a big discussion about it. There's another thing that the Rishonim bring up is that it's very hard to understand here, this Gemara. The issue that they had with giving the get on Shabbos was muktzah, which is the isim d'Rabbanan. Instead, what does Rav advise to do? To go and make a kinyan for her, she should be able to be kaina. Making a kinyan on Shabbos is also isim d'Rabbanan. So why is it better to make this kinyan and be over on the issa of midrabanan of making a kinyan on Shabbos than the issa of muktzah? So there's also a lot of answers in the Rishonim about this. One of the answers is that by muktzah it's more noticeable that you're being over issa midrabanan. You're actually touching and moving something which is muktzah. But when it comes to making the kinyan, as he spelled out here, all you have to do is open the door, lock the door. It just looks like she's coming in and out. So it's not a ism d'Rabbanan where you see that she's being over ism d'Rabbanan. So therefore he said that this is the way it should be done. But on this, Amalei Rav Elish asks Rav about this. How does this help? How does it help that the husband sells her this place where the get is on? Whatever the wife owns, the husband owns. So it doesn't help at all. So ichsif. When this question was asked to Rava, so Rava was embarrassed. He says it doesn't work. He got it. But l'soif igli milse. In the end, it turned out the arusa avoy. She wasn't even married yet. It was fully, that is. It was only the first stage of marriage. Edison. Now, in such a case, also Omar Rava said, Imamro b'nesua. If it was says regarding a nesua when she's fully married over there, whatever she owns goes to the husband. Yoimru barusa. The same. Do you think the same applies by a nesua that whatever she owns goes to the husband? It doesn't go to the husband. So therefore, over here, so she's kind of this space and she becomes divorced. But then Hada Omar Rava, then Rava came back and he said that I was right in the beginning, even if she was fully married. And the husband is giving her this space, he's selling her this space where the get is on, she could be divorced by this. Loishna Arusa, Loishna Nesua. Doesn't make a difference if she's Arusa or Nesua. Even after Nesua, where the husband does acquire whatever the wife owns, Gita v'chatzeira ban kechad. When the husband sells her that chatzer, so at the very same moment that he's selling her the chatzer, so because she's kind of the get now, at that moment that it's not really a kinyan as I said before. If you learn like the kitzais, it's not a kinyan. She's getting the get, so she gets the chatzar as well at the very same moment, so it's hers. She got the get, and she's divorced. So now the Gemara asks, for ha'amra Rava meikara. Didn't we have before that Rava said this for the pshat in our Mishnah? So Rava already said this before. Why is it saying that Rava first said a different pshat, and then Rava retracted from what he said? Says the Gemara, no. This is where Rava said it. Ki amra Rava ahai ma'isa amra. Here is where Rava said his chiddush of this concept of gita v'chatzeira bon kechad. And then we applied it to the Mishnah as well. But this is originally where Rava said it. Okay. Then the Mishnah said vihi b'toich beisa. The what? Yeah, sure. Arusa is a full ish. Vihi b'toich beisa. So the get was given to her in her house, and the Mishnah said that she's in the house. Ula says, when it said that she's kind of the get in her chatzer, she has to be standing there on the side of her chatzer. So here the Gemara uses the term tzad beisa, the Mishnah uses the term betoich beisa. There's a discussion in Rishonim about that, if she has to be on the side or mamish inside. But Rabbi Shia says, no, she doesn't even have to be there at all. Even if she's in Tveria and her chatzar is in Tzipayri, or he b'Tzipayri v'chatzar b'Tveria, Megadashis will be divorced. She doesn't have to be near there. In fact, the Gemara about v'hi b'toich beisa or b'toich chatzar katani. The Mishnah clearly says that she has to be in her chatzar or in her house when she's receiving the get. So he answers, Hachikama. What the Mishnah is saying is, Vihi kimi shebetoich beisa, vihi kimi shebetoich chatzera. That if she gets the get in her house or in her courtyard, it's as if she's standing there. The kivin, the chatzer, mishtameres l'daita, he miskareshes, because the chatzer is being protected. It has a fence around it. It has the walls of the house around it, and it's being protected for her das. It's her domain, and no one else is going to come here. So therefore, it's as if she's standing there. So all you need is that it should be a chatzara mishtameres. So whether she's there or she's not there, it's the same thing. It's mishtameres. Mishtameres means that it's guarded for her. It's protected and guarded for her. Right? But Ula holds the point is not just mishtameres. You actually need her to stand there. She has to know that the get is being placed now into her chotzer. You need midaita. She has to be actually standing there. Says the Gemara, shall we say that the machloikas of Ula and Rabbi is based on the following: the marsovar chotzer mishum yodes Rabbi. The opinion that says that she has to be actually standing there, and she has to be mamish midaito, she has to know that the get is being placed into her rishos, is because we learn a chotzer from yad. We compare chotzer to a hand, and just like a hand, she is right near her. The hand is in her body by her body. So to the chotzer, it has to be like an extension of her. She has to be there. But a marsava chotzer mishum shlichus is Rabbi. But Rabbi Shia holds that chotzer works like shlichus. Just like shlichus, you send a shliach far away to do something, and you don't have to be near there. So too, the kinyan of a chotzer has also the chiddush of shlichus in it, that you don't have to be near there. So the Gemara says, "Loi, that's not the pshat. The kula alma chotzer mishum yad is Rabbi." Everybody says that the way chotzer works is similar to a yad. But the question though is, how do we compare it to a yad? Marsava kiyada. So the first opinion here is that we compare it to the yad. This is Ula. So he says bismucha. Just like the hand has to be right near you, av chatzera bismucha. So you have to be near the chatzar. V'idach, but Rabbi Yishai says, if you're going to compare to a yad so literally, so then you're going to say ima yada bedvuka av chatzera bedvuka. Just like the hand is part of her body, it's connected to her. So too, you're going to say that the chatzar is connected to her. It's not. Ella, the comparison to yad is not in that sense. Ella kiyada, ma yada mishtameres l'daita, av chatzera mishtameres l'daita. The comparison to a yad is just in this sense that it's mishtameres l'daita, that it's being guarded for her. Once it's in her hands, she has it, and no one's taking it away from her. Similar over here, when it's in the chatzar, everybody knows that it's guarded for her. So that's enough that it should be like a yad. And therefore, only if it's a chatzar that is open without a fence and it's not mishtameres l'daita, then she won't be divorced. But otherwise, she doesn't have to be standing there. There was a story with a person. He threw a get to his wife. Have a kaime b'chatzar. Now his wife was standing in a chatzar. The get went and rolled and fell onto a piece of wood. Amar Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef says, is she divorced or not? So we have to see. Chazinon, we have to see, Ihava arba amis al arba amis. If this board of wood that it fell on is in the size of 4 amis by 4 amis, so then polyglot reshus lenafshei. So then this board of wood is a reshus for itself, and she's not divorced. But viloi, if it does not have the space of 4 amis for itself, so then so then it's 1 rishus and she will be divorced. So the Gemara right away asks, what are we talking about over here? In whose chatzar is she standing? If she's standing in her chatzar, and there in her chatzar there's a piece of wood that the get falls on, if that piece of wood, the board of wood has a space of 4 amis, why would that matter? But it's all in her chatzar, so that space of 4 amis is also hers. So it must be that she was standing in his chatzar, and there's this board of wood. So if so, if this board of wood is not 4 amis wide, why then should she be divorced? The get is in the husband's chatzar, it's not in her chatzar at all. And since the Gemara, the case over here is the oishla makim, that she's standing in the husband's chatzar, but the husband he lent to her the rights to use that space in this chatzar. He says, I'm giving you one space here, this space to use. So now, he only gave her one space. The chad makim moishli inshi, when he says, I'm giving you this space, we know that he meant one space, but trei mekayim is like moishli inshi. He didn't mean to say that this space and another space. So therefore, what we say is that if this board of wood is less than 4 amis, it's not a space for itself. So that's part of the space that the husband gave her to use, and she's divorced. Right, so from here you see in the Gemara that if she gets a lent from the husband this space, it's enough to be her space to be kinda, or to get the get. But if it has 4 amas for itself, it's not the space that the husband gave her. The Gemara adds, this that we say that it depends if it's 4 amas by 4 amas or not, that's if it's not 10 tvachim tall. If it was already 10 tvachim tall, this piece of wood, then even if it's not 4 by 4 amas, but it's still, because of its height, it's a space for itself, and she's not kind of this. And another point, if this piece of wood is just a simple piece of board of wood, that's it, but it doesn't have any other unique name to it. If it has another unique name to it, it's a special piece of wood that's used for something and it has another special name for it, then avagav the loigavay asarav, avagav the loyav amis, even if it's not tall 10 tfachim or it's not wide 4x4 amis, it's significant for itself, and it's not the space that the husband gave her, and she won't be divorced.
And it's in her place.